Hello and welcome to Watercolors. You will need your pencil and eraser, your brushes, different sizes, small brushes and big brushes, paint in tubes or in cakes, a tray to mix the colors, and a bucket of water, and of course a rag. Let's activate our watercolor cakes with adding a drop of water to them. And now we are going to create some tints and shades from the hue. Tints are basically um, basically the lighter version of the hue, and the shades are the hue itself with black or with the complementary color on the color wheel, which is the opposite color to the color itself. As for the tints, we basically just add a little bit of water to lighten up the color or basically lessen the pigments that we have. We're going to create two gradients, with one with two colors and one with color and water, and two washes. We would be also creating the color wheel and some textures testing as well. Color wheels can either be warm color wheels or cool color wheels, and that's depending on the color combination. Let's go ahead and start with a cool color wheel by starting with a cadmium yellow. Make sure to leave a small space between one color and the next one, because otherwise the colors are going to bleed into each other. You need a rag or a towel to dry your brush. We're going to use now cerulean blue on the fourth compartment. Make sure that your color is activated and mixed with water, and please don't use it like you are using your washes or acrylics. You will also need to activate the alizarin crimson, which is a reddish color. And now, after filling out the primary colors of this cool color wheel, we are going to start mixing the colors in between. Now we're going to start with the greens, creating different shades of green from that lemon yellow and the cerulean blue. Different shades of green, and we start darkening it by adding more pigments. Now we're going to create our purples. We will start with our purple that has more reds in it, closer to the red color, the alizarin color, and then we start adding more blues to it as it walks closer to the cerulean blue. Make sure to clean your tray so that the colors won't merge to one another. Now we are going to paint the oranges by mixing the alizarin crimson and the lemon yellow. As you get closer to the red color or the alizarin color, your orange becomes more red toned than yellow toned. By adding red pigments to the color. Now our color wheel is done. We have a cool color wheel. We used the cadmium lemon, cerulean blue, and the alizarin crimson. For the warm color wheel, we are going to use the cadmium yellow. And we are going to use the ultramarine blue and then the cadmium red as the three basic colors. Let's go ahead and start creating the washes. Now we have a flat wash from that orange leftover color from the previous color wheel. Then we are going to create a gradient of color into white. Remember, the white is the white of the paper. So we're just going to add water to the color swatch. If you end up with a water puddle or a small pool, make sure to use the brush by pointing it to that pool and allowing that water to be absorbed by the brush. Now we are going to create a gradient from two colors. We're preparing our alizarin crimson and the ultramarine blue. And we're going to start with the crimson and start adding the blue gradually. We're drying our brush and allowing it to absorb more water that's on the paper by pointing our tip of the brush into the areas where we have a puddle of water. Now we are going to paint um, the cadmium yellow tints and shades. We have prepared the um, complementary color of that cadmium lemon, and we are going to start creating the tints by adding more water. Make sure that the color is lighter as we go down the color swatches and darker as we go up into the shades. Again, now we are using the complementary color to create the shades. Now we're going to test the textures, swatches, and we're going to add um, and some color to those swatches, test our brushes, the tips, how we can diffuse more pigment to a wet area. Make sure that your hand doesn't touch the paper or you're going to damage the paint that's on the paper, especially if it's wet. So these are different textures that we have tested: dry brushing, diffusing paint into a wet area, and testing the brush tips. Now we're going to create our tints and shades of the hue. We're going to use black for the shades this time around and test the difference between adding black and using the complementary color. You make sure that your color shades or hue shades are darker as we go up, in the color swatches. We're adding more black to the pigments, to the color, to the hue, and creating that shade. To create the tints by adding more water to the color prepared. Remember, there are no whites in watercolors, and the whites are the white of the paper. Make sure that your colors are lighter as you go down the scale towards the tints. Also, dry your brush to allow it to absorb that extra water that's pulling up on your paper. Now we are going to clean our tray again and create a warm watercolor wheel. We're going to use cadmium yellow, ultramarine blue. Make sure your tray is clean to avoid a color being mixed with a previous color. Now I'm going to mix the colors or the greens that are between the cadmium yellow and the ultramarine blue. I'll be using cadmium orange. Make sure that your tray doesn't have any pink residues when you are applying a hue. And I'm going to complete the color variation, using the oranges and the blues and creating those purples. Purples will get darker as we add blue to them. And now we are going to create our oranges by mixing yellow and the cadmium orange. We will be also testing how to lift color from the paper. Let's create a small swatch and allow it to dry so we can test it. We're almost done with our introduction. We have created tints and shades of the hue, gradients, textures, flat washes. We are going to create a bigger wash so we can test it out, and that will conclude our introduction to watercolor painting. With the wash, I'm going to use a larger brush, and I'm just going to walk the paint down the paper. Some paints are better in washes than others. Remember, different pigments settle differently on the paper grain. We're going to lift the color on the swatch to test it out. Add some water to it and then dab it with a towel. Sometimes some pigments don't really get lifted from the paper. Thank you so much and have a great day.